The Intellectuals, everyone!
The third and kind of final Intellectuals was Artie had decided that he was tired of gigs where people were throwing stuff at him and he couldn't hear himself playing, and we were doing the Intellectuals did a lot of 60s covers because we didn't really write our own songs too much back then. And he was tired of that, and he wanted to get more mainstream. He wanted to play in like a more technical, professional kind of band because Artie at the time, he was a great bass player. And, and granted, I'm sure Artie was a little tired of me also because, in the Intellectuals, I was a taskmaster. I said, we got to practice more, we got to do this, we got to do that. But, back then we thought, hey, maybe we can be rock and roll stars. So we were actually trying to, get good. And Artie didn't want to be bothered with it. And whatever. So he said he was leaving.
I'd been playing bass, I think, for about a month and a half by that time. So I was just getting to know what, that it had 4 strings. That's probably what I knew about the bass when Joe called me up and asked me to be in the band, and of course I said yes.
And then Dave came in and just really couldn't play that well. He actually played the bass with one finger. He would hit the notes with this one finger and then put his fingers on the notes with just this finger. So it was funny to watch him.
There's actually like tapes of like Joe yelling the note out at Dave like, hey!
D! I know! 5th fret on the A string. That's it! You're right!
Joe would get a little bit more than upset sometimes if you messed up a song, But I think it solidified our friendship, because when you mess up a song and somebody hits you in the head with a 3-prong adapter for an outlet, and you start bleeding all over the place, it only makes your friendship grow stronger.
1, 2, 3, 4!
So we brought Dave in, and I would teach him the songs, and he got okay. And then we said, well, let's fill it up a little bit, because Artie was a very full bass player, and Dave kind of wasn't. So we brought in Bill Kelly. Billy had just started playing guitar, and I had been working with him a little bit, and he had been working with another friend of his to learn to play. And in like no time, the guy was a pretty good guitar player.
Joe and I are different styles of guitar playing, which I think worked well together. He was always so into the distortion and the Ramones, who I listened to once, and I just didn't get it. And I was always more into the clean guitar sound. They just had different styles. I wouldn't say either style is better, although I would say that mine is.
Bill kind of like took over the role of, while we're playing, kind of like showing Dave where we were, within the song and all that.
And that didn't really work.
So we brought him in, and then it was me, Bill, Dave, Hoff, and Kev. And that went on for a while, and then Kev kind of stopped coming to practice, so we said, all right, Kev, sorry, but see you later. And, he had no hard feelings, he was cool. And he left, and I started singing, and you can tell what a lovely singing voice I have.
Kevin left the band in like January. We were playing every day. We were practicing in my basement. Joe was screaming at me. And we got really tight. We were pretty good for a little while, for about 4 days. We got pretty good.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Somehow we had this opportunity to play. The Elite were playing. Dave's older brother, Bobby Saldarelli, was in that band, so he got us this gig. They were going to play there in New York City, and it was just going to be huge, because like how it works in the music industry is you come to New York City, you play one show, and then you made it, and then you're rich, and you're successful, and that's it. So we knew that.
Yeah, there was a reasonable turnout for 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, but it was just funny kind of bringing these really young kids into the city in the middle of the night during the week on a school night to play at this show. So that was pretty funny.
I believe that it was the opening night of the R&R and it was the closing night of the R&R because I believe a bunch of my brother's friends, who I won't mention, kicked in the walls and stuff. And that's always a good show. There's always trouble whenever, a band, one of our friends' bands play.
That band was probably the tightest and pretty good of the Intellectuals, but it didn't last too long. We were growing tired with it by then.